Okay, are we live now? Let's see the YouTube. Belum ada mas di YouTube-nya. Di YouTube-nya belum keluar. Belum. Saya buka YouTube-nya ini. Oke, keluar. Oke, Ali, we are starting. Okay. One moment. Are we live now? Let's see the. All right. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I would like to moment. Ali, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, very good. I would like to welcome you to our session. I would say good afternoon and bon après-midi à vous. Parce que il n'y a pas de soirée ou de nuit encore, mais cet après-midi. So, good afternoon for you. And we are also welcoming our partners. As far as I can see, there are 12 people watching at the moment. And I would say welcome to you, ladies and gentlemen. And we would like to start our session. The title of our webinar meeting is The EU, Turkey, and Indonesian Economy in Turbulent Time. Of course, it means the challenging time, a short, medium, and long-term trajectory in the outbreak. So, presenting today at the moment, we have two speakers today. The first being our colleague, my colleague, Ali Ogcem Ali Recai. I would like to call you Ali. Welcome, Ali. Thank you very much. And Ali is a researcher and a PhD candidate in economics in France. He is currently working for a number of research organizations, I would say so, correct, Ali? And also for the public involvements in the economic sector. And me, myself, my name is Anggoro Budi Nugroho. I'm from Indonesia, and currently I'm pursuing a PhD also in France. My topic will be Indonesia harnessing from pandemic wave through technology. There will be two sessions, and I think it is better for us to be flexible, Ali, no problem. If you would like to be speaking for 1 hour, that is fine for you. If you would like to be 2 hours and skip your breakfasting, that is also possible for you. But afterwards, we will get sick. Okay. Yeah. The first session will be delivered by Ali with the title Turkey and the Economic Cost of Pandemic. It is up to you how many minutes you will be delivering your topic. Feel free and be pleased with your own pace. And afterwards, I would like to continue my own topic with the second session, second turn. As I said, Indonesia harnessing from pandemic wave through technology. Afterwards, each of us will have comments. I'll be commenting on the topic, and I will also put some discussions over Ali's point of views, and we will also involve our participants. At the moment, let me see, there are 23 people watching. It is an honor. It is to you, Ali. We have 23 viewers online now, seeing us in the. We will later. My dear participants, my colleagues, also professor, are welcome here. If you have some argument, please feel free to be writing on the chat on our YouTube account. We will our answer accordingly. Oh, Ali, you ready now for your own topic? Can you hear me? Hello, Ali. Can you hear me?
I can share the screen.
Okay. All right. All right. You are ready?
Hello. Do you?
Now the time is.
I am.
Okay. Now the time is yours. You may continue.
Okay. Thank you so much. First of all, you encouraged me to be here.
Okay.
Just good evening, everyone, or good afternoon, everyone, from Paris to Indonesia. I hope we will fully up to expectations. And start my presentation. This is my presentation. Yes, the first page, you introduce yourself and me, so we don't need to lose time for it. So actually, today we choose the topic which is talking about Turkey's pandemic response on health, also on economic. So I'm going to try to talk with the four headings. The first one responding to COVID-19 pandemic on health base in the field of health. Then I'm going to talk about a little bit pandemic and the world economy. Then we're going to go a little bit deeper, emerging market, which is my countries and your countries, the countries looks like each other, and they are developing. They are going to developing their economies. And then the last one, also, I'm going to talk about where we headed now in Turkey, and where should and where could be heading. So the first slide, first thing I wanted to share with you, the number of cases, confirmed cases in Turkey. As you see that in Turkey, this is the among the highest infected, and we can understand from here that we didn't implement full lockdown like maybe Denmark, New Zealand. So it means that we couldn't stop the spread as much as the countries did, like New Zealand, again, Denmark, and some South Korea, and some other countries. This is the situation right now in Turkey, but there's an important thing here I wanted to really point it out. Even that Turkey has a huge number of infected people, the ratio, the mortality rate, which you can see on the right-hand side graph, the mortality rate is less than 3%. So when you compare the other countries, is actually, and this is like this graph is published just like some days ago. The mortality rate still is limited in Turkey, and it shows that the response on coronavirus is actually efficient, we can say, on the health base. So what is the behind of this limitation? I think because of the human resources, I mean, doctors, nurses, even the Turkey has less number of the averagely the OECD, when you compare the OECD countries and Turkey's number of the doctor on nurses is actually less than average, but the experience of these people who are treating more than average people daily based is higher than lots of countries. So it brings advantage to Turkey treat these patients who were infected, who were injected. And the second one is the capacity of the hospitals. Actually, this is really important. Like, we didn't have any shortages of hospital beds and any equipment. There's another important thing here. What we see on sometimes even the developed countries is they have shortages on some equipment, it's really important nowadays and huge demand on it, as the masks and some textile industries in textile products to protect themselves. So on this issue, Turkey actually, because of the strong textile industry capacity, didn't have any shortages. Even the Turkey helps the many developed countries and many undeveloped, or we can say that some underdeveloped countries. So this is actually the response of Turkey to COVID-19, and when we compare the other countries. So when we see this this situation is this, when people start seeing that the number of fulfillment cases slow down, people try to observe the impact of the economy. So we can start here from now to how this pandemic might or will affect on economy from beginning of this year. This is really hard time when you see the graph and you have seen that V-shaped growth after the 2008 crisis, and it costed already for the world is $22 trillion when the WTO World Trade Organization calculated. What we see now is it's easy to observe. It will be more than that, but we don't know which line will be the real one, because the effect might ongoing, or in some point we can start recover from some point which is limited. But this is really lots of people and lots of institutions try to guess the impact of this pandemic. Is actually, I must say that this is hard to forecast from now. We will see how the COVID will continue to affect our economies in the future better than right now. So when we come to this is the important thing I want to on the world economy. This is only good thing I can tell that we have experience, because in 2008 we had a financial meltdown, the global financial meltdown, which is started from the USA. So we know what can we do now, because we had that and very a near time experience, and world leader came together as they created the working groups, and the international financial institutions has been shaped and updated, especially G20. So they have reacted. We can say that good reaction on it, good response on it. So they started again. We start growing again. We cannot say that this is actually up to now, up to COVID start. We cannot say this is the perfect recovery, but still better. And especially Europe, the banking regulations and the bank balance sheet is actually improved, and it is, we can say that it is good enough. From now, we is really important for Indonesia and for Turkey. It's basically developed countries has more liquidity, more investment options. But for our countries, Indonesia and Turkey, we can say that when we compare the developing countries and emerging market countries is purchasing power parity is slightly less than developed countries, and the ratio is lower than developed countries, and the investment on infrastructure is more than the other countries. So as you see the left-hand side graphs, after explaining the differences between developed and emerging market countries, there is a huge extraordinary portfolio outflow emerging market countries. You can see on the left-hand side after coronavirus spread, and you can see this is absolutely extraordinary. When we come to the right-hand side graph, there is a comparison between the previous ones and the, for now, the COVID case. So you see how COVID's outflow, the non-resident portfolio outflow from emerging market differ from the previous one. It's huge effect. So the cost of pandemic on emerging markets will be much bigger than the previous crisis. Need liquidity, as these countries need investment to grow. So the another slide, I'm going to move on. This is actually showing that financial strength on the developing countries, emerging markets, and there are four important measures. Which are measured by economists, and these four measures show the strength of the financial institutions, financial situation of the countries. This is also actually a little bit about the previous situation of the countries. This is really important, how the countries will manage this situation. If they have enough liquidity, if they have enough strength, is really will be the determinant of the COVID case. So once you look at Turkey here, it is listed 44. It's actually is not good really, but there's a good thing here is only public debt. After 2015, I think I remember correct. I remember right. It's the number of measures taken by government, and they decrease the public debt. But unfortunately, the reserve capacity of the central bank is really limited. I'm going to talk later on about this situation, why we have that much shortages about the reserve capacity of Turkey's institution and Turkey's central bank. So in the next slides, I will try to explain how we ended up without having enough capacity reserves. Generally, you see the countries as advantages and disadvantages. So these countries, also it's important that how the COVID affect their economies. Some countries really has the spread of the coronavirus is really limited. So the damage of the coronavirus, it can be limited when you compare the other countries. From here I wanted to come to currency problem, because we saw it the previous slides, how the outflow started and how big it is. Then the CD, again, the emerging market situation, financial strength. So now it's like a currency situation. As you see, the currencies we have here for 5 countries, the depreciation of the currencies against the dollar. So the Turkey is listed as a second country, but this is like from the mid-April. I think is now the number of the depreciation is slightly higher than that. And why I'm showing this, the currency and financial strength situations will be the case, will be the topic of my next slides. Yeah, here we just came to the deeper, and it comes to the Turkey. This is important figure. This is important figure of Turkey's currencies over the years. Actually, this currency depreciation, we have seen that in 2018. It's really dramatic. It's dramatic case. So here I really want to have some brief story about Turkey. What's happening last couple of years. Turkey actually in 2002 we had a huge financial crisis. After 2008, world economy of World Economic Group has just like pointed out that Turkey as like a implement new rules on the market based. I mean, financial market capital. I mean, the different parts of the different economic different economic measures took it. So because after 2002, there is a we have experienced that as a decline of unemployment, and the reserve of the central bank capacity has risen, and we have seen that purchasing poverty has risen, and we became the one of the biggest economy in the world, the 16th economy in the world now, one is a G20 member. And this is really important here. After 2002, we had another financial crisis, but this is not actually, it's Turkey's crisis. This is financial crisis. In that crisis, because of Turkey's well economic management, easiest the condition of this problem. And Turkey used the capacity, the bank reserve, the currency capacities, especially the foreign exchange currency capacities of central bank, and it managed to smooth to global financial crisis. But after 2015, we had some political difficulties, especially in 2016. So these are external factors. Also, the political risk increased after 2016 and when we come to 2018, as you see, that is like a huge depreciation on currencies. Turkey, unfortunately, the Turkish lira unfortunately lost its value, and because of the government reaction of the recovery of this problem, the Turkish government they increased the credit supply. So after 2018, the credit supply is increased dramatically. That might be affecting now our current situation, actually, because it's really like the capacity of central bank, it became really limited because of this problem. So this is the actually previous condition of the COVID effect. So once we come to another slides about Turkish economy after the currency problem, I want to talk about the real sectors problem, previous conditions, and right now how they have been affected. Here you see that after coronavirus, Turkey real sector confidence has dramatically decreased, this sharp drop, and Turkey's the capacity utilization rate of the manufacturing industry has been declined after this coronavirus effects. This is what are we facing now? It is, you see the real sector effect of coronavirus. We cannot measure right now, but this is the graph, how big it is, how affect at the moment to our economy. I just wanted to show one important graph next to it. I use the Google Trend data to measure how this COVID affected Turkey's tourism. Turkey's tourism is one of the important sectors for Turkey's growth, especially right now. We already starting the holiday season. So as you see on the graph, I use the hotel as a proxy of the measuring of the impact of COVID. So as you see these peaks, there's a four peaks. This graph shows the 5 years, how many times people, how many the density of the hotel usage of people search or people by people. So when you see the 5 peaks, it's already start from the beginning of May, and then it will gradually increase it and reach the peak, then down by like September. But unfortunately, right now we already started the holiday season, but unfortunately again, the drop of the hotel research has dropped. So which means that the inflow of currency, foreign currency, will also drop. And unfortunately, the number of people who are working in that sector also will drop. So what we can say from now, this is going to be maybe bigger than any expectation. This is might be the long-lasting problem. From the hotel sector, these are what we are facing now. The last 3 slides, I try to explain how the COVID individually or emerging market based, how they affect the country, how they affect the Turkey and emerging markets. So here, Turkey's response, next slide about. So Turkey, I need to come slide back. So here, yeah, Turkey's response. I have searched about it, how many billion Turkish lira already used for COVID response. Actually, this is more or less the numbers change. Actually, the calculation when the calculation method changed, also the magnitude has been changed. So I can say that 200 billion Turkish lira is already used for stimulus package response to coronavirus. So this amount of money used, but I have tried to also dig more and to see the components of this program. And actually, what I found it out, this is I'm gonna talk later on about how this thing, how when we compare with other countries, the stimulus package, this stimulus program, but also I want to say that this is like mostly based on the loan program, credit program. This is, we're gonna criticize a little bit about the next slide, and we're gonna discuss the advantage and disadvantage of this program. But this is now Turkey's response of coronavirus, and the loans actually, it's they try to save the employment people in the job, and they try to increase the liquidity in business, and the consumer loan try to meet the demand of people. And then I wanted to compare the Turkey's stimulus program, I mean physical stimulus program, to other countries. You see this country is like has a different stimulus, and the magnitude actually is different, but we cannot really like judge the country based on this list, because the number of the coronavirus cases, the number of deaths, and how long this coronavirus affect on the country as already like changing the determination of the economic impact. But we say that now Turkey is spent less than 5% when you share with the GDP ratio, and it's better than some other countries, and is less than some other countries. Of course, like Japan, USA, and Germany, these countries, developed countries, and their GDP is high. Maybe also USA is actually, it's the effect of coronavirus. You cannot compare like Turkey and some other countries, because we every day is a huge mortality rate. Then I wanted to talk about criticism. I mean, I want to talk about the I wanted to criticize these stimulus programs, and I have some research about it, and they might change now. But the first packet, when they came out, we can see that some lack of it. Actually, we can say that these are mostly loan, so it means that if people cannot pay back, it might be the problem, and it will affect the growth of Turkey, and it will have some financial difficulties. And the loss of countries, especially in G20, they have already joined the Fed's swap line, which help them to fulfill foreign exchange, especially dollar reserve. So this is important. Unfortunately, Turkey hasn't had any deal with it. So it increased the uncertainty in Turkey, and because of this currency depreciation, maybe caused by one of the reason also one of the reason is that, and printing money by central bank. Actually, this is extraordinary time, so we need to take extraordinary measures. So this is acceptable, but mostly agree that we don't have any plan. We don't have any restriction on it. So this might be to increase the money supply right now, but it will come with inflation back. And Turkey already have a high inflation rate. And once we come to another action, Turkey's central bank cut the interest rate. The interest rate now in Turkey less than the inflation rate. So we can say that the interest rate actually is negative. So it doesn't help to bring money into the countries. So this is also one of the weakest part of the Turkey, economic weakest part of Turkey. And like people already, and also some economists really like a keen on talking about that, unregistered employees. These people have not registered, and mostly the seasonal workers. So we don't know really the number of people. I mean, we know that, but it's not really like certain numbers. So up to now, the stimulus program doesn't cover these people. So it might really meaningful effect on these people, this coronavirus. And another thing I think is really important, after the shock easing, we need to really focus on micro data. We need to watch daily based, and we need to respond to daily based. Like what I know is Finland, there's a working group settled, and they are like only working about this. They are watching the daily based data, like credit spending ratios and unemployment ratios, or like some actually unemployment ratio is not a micro data, but they are watching this credit spending ratios and the other really like measures, the credit usage and this kind of thing, and they are trying to bring the solution on it. They tackle these problems daily based. This is really important. Actually, Turkey achieved if we say it's a success story about the health response, they settled, the Turkey's health minister settled a group of people who are professional on it, and they managed and they increased the trust of public, and they responded, we can say that successfully. But on economic situation, we didn't really create sector-based groups and come together and see the problems and solve these issues, which was caused by coronavirus. So on top of all, what can I say? Well, how can I summarize it? Is actually we still don't have any program. Maybe they are working right now, but still we don't have any program right now. So the uncertainty and credibility has been followed, and also like people really follow the news every day because it's just the coronavirus health issue is like is not really in their topic already, because when we look at the Google Trend data, the people who are searching about the coronavirus is decreased dramatically. Actually, we can say that it's actually the straight line now. So people nowadays looking for other things, and economy is the focus of them. Here is I just wanted to show. I just really wanted to show about consumer loan demand, consumer credit demand, which is also maybe show that how much stimulus program fulfill the people requirement. As you see here, after the coronavirus effect has came out, people still looking for loan. It might be two reasons. One of them is a cheap loan they might invest, or they. But another and important reason might be that they cannot really have enough money to meet their demand. So this is I used again the Google Trend data and wanted to show it that still people really still people looking for credit and loan to fulfill their requirements. And from here, we talk about the negative side and the positive side of it. Actually, Turkey has, Turkey's story full of the economic crisis. We can start from 2002. I don't want to mention the previous ones, and 2008, then the last one in 2018. As you see that, like people, especially the economic side of the economic institution has already experienced this crisis. So I am sure that, and I know that the skill of the crisis management highs in Turkey because of the experiment. We know that this is a different crisis, and it is huge. And it affects all over the world. It is affecting all over the world. But still, this experience is important for Turkey. And another good thing is that the physical stimulus program contribute to low-level class people who have not stable, and this is really important. So what I know is 2 million people already had chance to get paid. The third one is, maybe this is not like a immediate strength, but we can say this one is in the long term, because of the Chinese image. Lots of country, they might move their factories out of China. So Turkey might have chance to be a supplier of some countries, because enough capacity of industry and enough human resources, and once the portfolio inflow start, I think it might end up to taking some advantage of Chinese image. Already, you might know that Japan already asked for their companies to move out some factories out of China. Quite a high level of credit and high level of credit. Yeah, this is the story actually. This is advantages, disadvantages, the health issues, the world economy. This is good things. How I can conclude, I was thinking about it, and I asked my friends, and I tell them my stories, how I feel. There are good things on the health side. We know what is it, and our doctors already experience it. This is good things, but still is high uncertainty, because we don't know how can we stop it, and everyone talking about it might come back, spread the second wave They are afraid of the second wave. And the bad thing, unfortunately, Turkey right now, it is not as much as lucky like before 2018, 2008. So Turkey had enough capacity and less debt, especially the financial sector. Now the Turkey's financial sector really have huge foreign exchange debts because they borrow from the cheap loan from the foreign banks and some institutions. So what can I say? There are lots of analyses like we did now, and this is really like a different time. Maybe once 100 times they say maybe we cannot really like a guess what will happen. So my point is that take it with a pinch of salt. Keep calm and see what's happening. Don't consume alone a lot. So thank you very much. Actually, I wrote it in an Indonesian language. I hope it is right. So this is what I wanted to talk. I hope it was enough to see the Turkey's problems, Turkey's advantages, while we are facing this pandemic.
Okay, thank you very much. How would you say that in Turkish language? Teşekkür ederim or what?
Yes, you're right.
Teşekkür ederim. It's very good. Çok güzel. And and very. I've seen some business aspects as well as monetary and financial market sector. Okay, we are now having 27 out of 40 watching at the moment, and it's no problem. People are free to come in.
I talk a lot. I'm sorry.
Excuse me?
I talk a lot, actually. It's more than...
No problem. People come and go. It's free. Okay. I would like to continue. You are still having 20 minutes if you like to add something. No? Okay. Afterwards. Yeah, afterwards. Okay. Wait a minute. Where is my thing? All right. Can you see the PowerPoint there?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. If you can see it, I would like to continue. Thank you very much for explaining the Turkey nature in addressing the crisis. I would like to by how disturbed current pandemic to Indonesian economy. So this is the joke. When someday in the future we will remember our grandchildren, our children, we will tell them about this situation because this is among the worst since the Spanish pandemic, and hopefully things are getting to soon. why are not there handles on doors anymore? Because this virus is very contagious. It spreads to handles, it spreads to droplets through contact with other people. Also, we have so okay. I would like to take a look to the numbers, how severe it has been in many countries. Astonishingly, you can see the most hit by this virus outbreak is the advanced nations, including the G7 members such as the USA, Italy, and the UK. If you have been watching, Ali, France, where we live, it has been ranked fourth. Nowadays, it has been two since it was overtaken by the UK. Now France is becoming on the United Kingdom is getting worse. I don't know, it's a bad signal, but fortunately we are going to get the trend active cases in some European countries, for example, like Germany and France. It is becoming crystal clear and more promising, more convincing. The performance of this lockdown seems to be for almost how many months have we been locked at home? I think around 2 months, nearly
Beginning of
now.
end of March.
Yeah, exactly. And we now start seeing not a steeper anymore. Yeah, not a steep curve anymore, but rather a downsloping or a shift of the slope of the curve. And it's relief for us in Europe. You compare with in Indonesia, the right side, for example, trend still number of victims, the patients increasing day by day. Our surprise, the coronavirus also hit the high income nations instead of the middle, be it upper middle income or be it lower middle income. Also low income. It is a very nice overview of how the advanced nations are hit worse relative to, let's say, the developing nations like Indonesia or other Southeast Asian countries, Vietnam or Turkey also as an emerging market. And if we see the growth rates in ASEAN region, Southeast Asia, of prediction shows a negative over the growth, right? For example, Indonesia is predicted to be growing by 2% decade should this end of year is coming, and Malaysia minus 0.3, and Singapore the most hit minus 4.5. This is from the IMF. ASEAN, Indonesia is not the worst hit. You can see from the graph, the Malaysia as well as also the Vietnam. Vietnam is so much luckier today because it has been able to tackle the issues quite well. Ali, are you there? Can I see you?
Yes. Do you see me?
Cannot see you.
Really?
Yes. Okay. I'd like to continue. Oh.
Now, can you see me right now?
We need the connection to be established.
I can. I'm watching you, so you can.
All right. All right. In the last global peace, real GDP growth annualized percentage change. This is corrected for inflation, also shows some Moody's Analytics data, some negative perspective over the future outlook that we should be anticipating. The United States and Brazil, as well as United Kingdom and Eurozone, it is among the worst. So the case is Ali, our nations, our countries like Turkey and Indonesia, nations of resources, supporting resources to the global. But rather, these advanced economies are the market of the sectors of production. So if the market is turning, then it is also a bad signal for developing nations such as Indonesia and Turkey.
True.
It has been predicted that a number of activity and sectors by Economist Intelligence Unit or the Economist magazine has been contracting due to the viral outbreak. For example, in Indonesia, the impact of COVID-19 or the coronavirus has been so much diversified on the nature of business. For example, agricultural is predicted to be experiencing downturn by minus 0.9, manufacturing industry 0.5, as the service. Can you imagine the transportation business as well as the hospitality are among the worst to be hit by virus? Well, the total policy framework is, however, we expect to avoid the occurrence of stagflation. People call the new normal. It will happen after the crisis. Or in economics, we recognize it as the new equilibrium. But however, the most possible approach that is feasible to be seen is to avoid the stagflation. What I'm saying stagflation is, of course, we need money to grow. You talk about the Turkish central bank printing money, as well as other central banks may do as well also to foster their growth. But however, if the inflation happens without the continuing occurrence of the growth, the situation is as stagflation. Stagflation is the increasing inflation or prices without resulting in any economic growth, and that should be avoided because of the crisis.
Do you really believe that the inflation, because of the demand side, the depreciation demand might not affect the inflation? I mean, negative impact of inflation. So
I think that is somehow possible because the productivity is becoming so scarce today due to contraction in the labor market. We see unemployment in Indonesia. People in hospitality sectors as well as in the airlines industry are now experiencing some layoffs. It is not a good news for us. The final object of the economic system is to create jobs, of course. And the decreasing productivity will lead to that because we need to grow. There is no growth without production. So there is a stability that should be achieved by the central bank by measuring how much money to create, how much to circulate or to distribute among the people that is sufficient to foster any certain growth, or I would say any desired certain growth. We cannot be growing. Indonesia is growing around 5 to 6, almost like that all the years in history. But today, we don't want that to happen. Maybe we can only expect 2% of growth, or if there is positive growth, we will see how the contraction may further happen. Financial market, you talk about Turkish monetary system. I've been watching you. Has President Joko Widodo's strategies been better equipped with shocks anticipation? in the financial market. Money is the blood of the economic system. The global interconnections map, I'm referring to the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. We fail to address some crisis. Dear friends and Ali, what is popping up in your mind when we talk about risk? People commonly in the world today will mention only not more than two major risks that is observable in the future. For example, the first one is environmental disaster. Flooding in Indonesia or heavy rain in other part of my country, or maybe Turkey is prone to what kind of natural disaster? I think earthquake, I think, and many more. But we fail to address or to identify the occurrence of spread of infectious disease. Even the World Economic Forum themselves, right? We can see right on the right corner of this exhibit, there is a small dot colored orange, spread of infectious disease. But unfortunately, the orange diamond is indicated very small because we don't see it as significant. We don't see it a significant threat to our life system, including economic system. And all those crises, all those dots they are constructing a nexus between them. Infectious disease in Indonesia can lead to food crisis because farmers reduce their work hours. They don't work as much as before because they are worried about the virus. And also failure of regional or global governance. Today we are having an argue between local governors, municipalities, authorities of the cities, including how to channel the funds or to channel the support for the poor. And that is now happening in Indonesia. Also, that will lead to employment or underemployment. People used to be working, for example, according to our law system, 8 hours, now becoming 4 hours, or come to workplace interchangeably. In Monday, they don't come in Sunday, and go on. Fiscal crisis because the government now is sustain the productivity through money, as well as deflation. This is the opposite, right? The opposite of inflation. Of course, I understand you must have heard the recent price fall of global oil product. And the final one is the failure of financial mechanism or institution at the bottom of the screen. So it's crystal clear how the spread of infectious disease such as coronavirus or the COVID-19 has somehow reached the failure of financial mechanism institution should it not be addressed properly by our authority. So the central issue is combating the COVID itself to be recovering in all countries. Second, avoiding the outbreak from reaching the financial systems because the business is halting and the recovery happens that we may not be predicting quite appropriately, and maintain some productivity productions level, saving our populations and national aggregate supply. So this is the chain. The pandemic happens, the business halting happens, the capacities downturning, unemployment happens. Has there been unemployment in Turkey happening, Ali?
Can you repeat it?
Has there been unemployment happening in Turkey already?
It's I think the end of last year, the beginning of this year, it is actually 14%. The forecast is 17% after the crisis.
Right. I've
But
been
as,
with them. Yeah.
as I mentioned, this is really important. Unregistered people, unregistered workers. So
Unregistered workers. Yeah, exactly.
do you have the same problem there?
Because they have lower labor costs. Now all producers are pursuing lower labor costs.
Yeah.
Right? So I've been witnessing people, they are undergoing the layoff of their company. We hope that the full capacity in labor market will be happening soon. All right. Employment may lead, and I'm not saying will, but may lead to credit crunch, POD scenarios, probability of default in the banking system. Of course, this is very nightmare. Ali, you may recall from 1990 Asian crisis. I don't know what was happening in Turkey at that moment, but we had a very bad experience
We
in
had
Indonesia.
we had always crisis. So up to up to 2002, we have experienced many crises.
All right, all right, all right.
But 1998, it wasn't as bad as like you experienced.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was such a sincere awareness over the crisis in your history. We had that crisis in 19. You already in the previous slide where our the GDP downfall was very very sharp and very reaching to the lowest level of minus 14% of GDP growth. Can you imagine that? Perhaps, I suppose this coronavirus outbreak will lead to the second, I would say, the second shelf in the economic growth. Okay, and microcredit rescheduling as well as the capital market distrust. The investors are now waiting whether or not they should execute their money into stock market or to the bond market or moving somewhere else because it is hot money as happening in the surrounding situation of during the last subprime mortgage in the US that we are benefiting from the hot money economies. All right, there are two breakdowns. The first one is saving the financial markets itself. This is the average corporate credit risk varying significantly across countries. If we say credit risk, it means it's so much related to the non-performing loans. It is a sort of a phantom for the banking systems. Of course, we don't want that to be skyrocketing, such as happening in the last 1998 or 1997 Asian crisis. That was a very disaster. The US is the highest. That is across the year, okay, as well as the Singapore and Indonesia. This is the average corporate credit risk that is valued around 7.2%, the highest until 4.8% at the lowest possible of occurrence. So whatever happening with the US, wherever their tail goes to, it will impact the rest of the world. Of course, we don't want that to happen because we talk about money and we talk about trust and we talk about business. This is the portfolio forecasted average of probability of default. This is from the angle of the banking system. This is from the angle of the banking authority. If you are a banker, you don't want to experience the credit default because that will lower your mark, your achievement, your performance. If we see here, which sector can you see, Ali? Maybe the worst hit during this coronavirus crisis.
I can't read the headings actually because of the small screen.
Of course, during the coronavirus outbreak, during the season, people don't go. Yes, people don't go to cinema. They don't watch movies as they used to. They cannot go together, just as happening in France today. The government closes the cinemas, the museums, the restaurants, the cafes. So entertainment, as well as the traveling, the sector dealing with traveling so much is transportation, as well as oil and gas. I mentioned deflation before. As you may see what is happening in the oil and gas sector today, as the world oil prices has been plunging, as well as the real estate sector. RE stands for the real estate sector because of the delay of establishment, the delay of development of the new houses, of the new towers, new offices, many more. They delay that. There are business delay because people are frightened by this virus, as well as portfolio forecasted for probability of default per sector across quarters. Should the severe pandemic scenario happen, the red proportion are addressed or associated with the severe in the near future. We can see here that entertainment, transportation, oil and gas, and the real estate are the most dangerous sector from the angle of banking perspective, meaning these four sectors are the most possible to contribute for the higher non-performing loans to the bank. The government should be aware of this. This is the debt must be dealt after the COVID-19 happened. Well, the total debt to GDP ratio, around 2% of our GDP. This is the parameter given by our law system. The percentage is represented by the x-axis, and the y-axis represents. Can you see Turkey there? All right, and Indonesia is represented by the code IDN. That is Indonesia, and Turkey. I can see there somewhere in the middle left, TUR.
Yes, next to the Thailand, I think.
Yes, yes. Okay, we have more or less the same level of indebtedness profile. During, for example, you have the longer economic duration expectation in the future. The green represent the emerging markets and the blue represent developed economies. What I'm saying here is that no countries are free from debt.
This debt is the government debt. I mean, this is like the total debt of GDP. So this debt is components of debt. Is it government or private sector, which is really important.
These are both the public and the private sector.
Both is high. Both
yes,
are high.
Cumulatively, yeah, aggregate. Cumulatively, I use the Moody's. This is the widely known debt raters in the world. All right, so this is our homework. We don't expect the US dollar to be strengthened. Our currency is rupiah. Of course, the central bank has been issuing some measures to somehow stabilize the value, like to extend or to add the variety of swaps durations more frequent to protect the rupiah and also to protect the supply of dollar circulating in our domestic territory, Indonesia. Because people need US dollar to pay debt. Secondly, to fulfill their contracts. Should there is a shortfall of US dollar due to the business needs, there is a threat to our, I would say, value stability of the currency. All right, so this is the impact of COVID-19 on the capital percent. You see there, I mentioned you previously, there are four, being entertainment in Indonesia, transportation, oil and gas, as well as the real estate, which are in short of capital, meaning they are really in need for capital support, let's say from the stakeholders, stockholders belonging to them. Okay, so that internal capital will be distributed heavily to fulfill the needs of the four sectors. Again, all bankers should be aware of these findings because entertainment, transportation, and the real estate are so much prone to credit crisis or credit crime. So what should the bank do? The bank should address the possibility of that dangerous sectors, the sectors that has the high possibility to contribute for the credit crisis. There are four of them I previously mentioned. That is by exercising optimal portfolio allocation, or I would say here a portfolio balance sheet optimization. Do not, in casual words, channel your funds or channel your credits or your loans to those four framework. It can be changing anytime. For example, consumer products may replace the financial or technology or electronics may replace the hospitality, but it suffices to say in Indonesia we have three to four dangerous for the banking industry. They are oil and the productivity, the hospitality and transportation. All right, that was about saving the financial system by understanding, by recognizing to the risk. And secondly, it is about the saving the poor or vulnerable. How many percent of the total population in Turkey are classified poor, Ali?
Not extreme debt, yeah? Not extreme poor, yeah?
Poor. Many percent of our have a guess.
I mean, if it's daily income more than €4, it's not an extreme poverty. So which means that this is, I think, almost zero. But I am not sure how many percentage of the population are classifying as a poor. I need to look at it.
Okay. By this is our demographic characteristics of Indonesian people. If you see there, which one of the segment of are many? Well, with regard to their age, is it the old or the young? 2010 to 2020, today, the working age or the productive segment of the population, meaning the young, is higher than the older in Indonesia. This is our advantage. Almost 270 million people. Can you imagine? This is almost equivalent with the population of the total population of Africa continent. Only one single country. That is Indonesia. But the young is, by the data shows, are more than the older. So the dependency ratio has been so much moderate. Answer: how many percent of our are classified as the poor or the vulnerable? Let's say we are not going to argue about what exactly categorized as poor or vulnerable. You see the Indonesia, the dark blue is the extreme poor.
Yes.
Blue is poor. And another lighter blue is economic vulnerable. from the World Bank, 68% of Indonesian population belonging to the vulnerable group. Only 32% are economically safe. This is a burden. For example, Cambodia, Laos, Papua New Guinea, and many more. This is our homework. So this is burden to the government. Burdening what? Burdening fiscal capacity. The fiscal stimulus in Turkey. This is a fast money supply for social assistance. Give vulnerable. This is done from Ministry of Finance. Okay, provided 405 billion Indonesian rupiah, including the segment. Duration monthly, 12 months, 3 months from April to June, as well as 4 months. Okay, so all comprising those items, summing up 405 rupiah. Ali, if we support the poor in Indonesia, first item is the condition, the food voucher, adding up some extra money of the worth of 50,000 rupiah extra money to each household to make them still being able to access food. Electricity subsidy, the special cash transfers, village fund reallocation, and many more. So the total sum of fiscal package, economic cost borne by in Indonesia to sustain growth. This is so much different from Turkey because Turkey doesn't have population as much as many as Indonesia. Correct, right?
Yes.
Indonesia has many population.
This is actually
All of them, according to the World Bank data, are belonging to the poor and vulnerable. So this is burden. They don't work.
so, but this is
Would like to say something?
yeah. If you don't mind, I just wanna. If you come to next slide, if you show the total amount of money the government implements, the next one, yes, yeah. Unfortunately, this is the COVID effect also. The numbers is not doesn't match it with each other. The some sources is different because on my research, yeah.
Ali, can you hear me? Yep.
Yes, I hear
Okay.
you.
You're losing connection. No problem. Yeah.
Yes. So there is another thing. Did your government implement any lockdown or partial lockdown?
Yes. The social distancing policy, we call that social distancing policy. But the duration, it starts late, more late than the France did. Europe earlier than Indonesia.
Okay.
We started from in March, right? Indonesia, as I from relatives, it started approaching 1 month. Approaching 1 month. The infected number of the infected number curve are still going very steep because it's just started. Meanwhile, in Europe, it has been, let's say, staying steep anymore. Yeah. Hopefully, it's done. The sooner the peak of the
At least
coronavirus to be achieved, the better. So, the total sum of fiscal package economic cost borne by the nation to sustain growth due to this pandemic equals 405 trillion, or more or less 4/6 of the last 1998 banking recovery cost in the Asian crisis that we experienced. We don't want it to happen again because they lead to distrust from the money, you can say borrowers or the money depositors also, right? And this should be subtracted by the present value of all the potential cash flow loss from the delayed business. I said to you, there are four sectors in Indonesia that is impacted the worst. The first being entertainment, second transportation, the third is oil and gas, and the last is the real estate. That the bank should help them to channel the loans to them. I put the present value because it's not happening yet. It's potential uh, delay of the can be earned from the business. Okay, what's happening? Come on. All right. So hereby the cost of pandemic crisis is the cash flow of business delays. Okay, affected by the government expenditure, discounted discounted cash flow, because we imagine if that money is in fact it can be invested in a positive NPV project, and we expect that to grow. Shall they not used to support poor people, sustain development amid this difficult time, yeah, but rather due to the crisis, the money is becoming to support people of pandemic crisis. And the government decided to use debt, for example. Can they can fulfill the crisis by their own uh, fiscal capacity that they have at the moment, but they can also borrow money from other, I would say, the donor institutions. So hence the cost of pandemic crisis becoming the minus cash flow of the business delays minus government expenditure at the discounted value. But there is a T there, small t of the capital T, because if there will be a stream of cash flow allocated to pay for the interest in the future, then this is going to be more burdening. That is why, because of the exponential nature of the discounted cash flow. All right, the last section. We are nearly done. How would the aftermath would look like? How would the aftermath would look like? The first to remember is there is no report on the credit crunch yet. We should be thankful about that. We should be thankful about it. This is a reliving reality in Indonesia. There is not yet a report about credit crunch defeating the banking system. This is the first thing to avoid. Second, this happens when the online culture, our online culture, has been so much established. I mean, online culture is the internet culture of the people. This is what I've been very, very feeling grateful about during this time. So the coronavirus happens when people have been established with the internet system. They are used to with the network. They are used to internet with the internet, how to utilize them to fulfill their needs. And the number three, the trajectory as well as of economic turning. There are two kinds of trajectory. What kind of trajectory? The first is trajectory of recovery itself. How will they go? The second is the trajectory of economic recovery itself, not the disease, but the economy. So this coronavirus has caused two systems in us. The first is health challenges. The second is economic challenges. We should differentiate them. By distinguishing them, we will be able to address them more properly. These policies are for the health, and these policies are for the economy. Top 10 risks in terms of likelihood and impact. Again, I'm referring to the World Economic Forum, the latest one undertaken in the Davos, Switzerland. According to the likelihood of happening, extreme weather events happening to be the first, to be ranked the first, failure of climate change, and etc., etc., natural disasters, as well as top 10 risks in terms of impact. Maybe some risks are not that high in terms of frequency or likelihood, but rather high in terms of impact should they happen. Weapons of mass destruction, terrorism, failure of climate change, extreme weather events. So we never have in mind about this kind of virus. This is our problem. This is a lesson for all human beings. We never anticipate the advent of any viral attacks to human health. Spread of infectious disease. You can see there, Ali, that
Yeah.
rank number 10. When we talk about risk, what will be happening and popping up in people's mind? The first is terrorism, the second is natural. That's all. Be it the tsunami, be it the earthquake, be it the flood. But we never have in mind about the spread of infectious disease, such as SARS and MERS, to happen again. That's why we fail today to allocate our resource, our budget, and we are shocked by this phenomenon. For the next 18 months, what can be predicted? Large-scale involuntary migration. People may come from, I would say, prone territory, state collapse of crisis or crisis. We don't expect that. Interstate conflict, we don't expect that. But unemployment or underemployment happens. For the next 10 years, with regard to the increasing population, the water crisis, climate change, crisis are most anticipated risk. This is the competitiveness map of Indonesia provided by World Bank. I don't know how Turkey characterized. Can you see there, Ali and our friends, what things are Indonesia strong in? We are strong in number one, the market size, because the population, there is a vast number of population, 260 until 270 million. Market is our competitive point. We have high number of population with the middle purchasing capacity. The middle class in the population. That is market. For everyone who want to sell any goods to Indonesia, cell phones, cellular phones, electronics, automotive products from Japan, Indonesia is a potential market. All right. So by this, we know already that the number of population and the purchasing power of the middle class of Indonesia are two our main advantages. So this by other data, right? The scoring from the World Bank shows that market size ranks the highest score for Indonesia, 82.4. I don't know what competitiveness that Turkey relies on. But if you ask me, what are Indonesia strong at? I will say the number of people and their purchasing power. I say the advent of the online technology to our country, internet users in Indonesia has been increasing almost double within 4 to 5 years. You can see that. And what Indonesian people use internet for? They commonly use it the most for commerce, to buy goods and services, to send packages, to fulfill their needs. Second one is use Aggo.com, Traveloka, and many more. To go abroad and have vacation and many more. So this promising economy in the eyes of technology providers. Indonesia internet economy grows. You can see the value there, right? 51% for online media, and for e-commerce with amount of 82 billion per year. So that's why this is examples how our traditional markets, Ali, have been profiting and benefiting from such condition. During this season, people don't go to market that much. People don't go to traditional markets. They access the market from home, and the vendors will deliver the goods that you have been ordering to your home in order to avoid contact. So this is a previously traditional market in Central Java, the Pasar Condong Catur. The pasar means market or bazaar. Like in Istanbul, there is bazaar, right? So
Yeah.
the bazaar now is now operating online because they avoid to meet. They avoid physical meetings. This is how Indonesia, the large population with the middle income purchasing power, has been able to utilize technology in addressing their needs and sustaining their economic growth during this crisis. The last trajectory, outbreak recovery. In terms of outbreak recovery, the short, middle term, and long term. The short, we'll see the 3 months recovery. For example, to June or July, there are countries showing this habit like China, South Korea, Japan, and Vietnam. The middle term represented by the US and many more, as well as the long term needs more than 1 year to recover because of its slow pace of recovery, such as Italy, Spain, India, and Argentina. This is in terms of outbreak recovery. And the last, this is the trajectory of economic recovery, not the disease itself. For example, China, Vietnam, South Korea, and Japan will likely to recover their growth than the rest. This is growing 1 to 3% of its GNI, seeing their data from the World Bank. Well, the rest, such as India, Ecuador, and Venezuela, might be growing higher, but it takes longer time to recover. That is beyond 1 year. Let's say from 2021 onwards. This is the prediction. I think that is all my presentation, Ali, that is happening with Indonesia, the financial markets, the poor, sustainability, and the government policy to support the poor. And this is a joke. I swear it was Friday, like 5 minutes ago, because people start to forget the day. Do you remember what day is it, Ali? Because we stay too long at home.
Yeah, I remember because yeah,
Sorry?
I just know just because of this. Otherwise, I always forget. Yeah.
Yeah, sure, sure. Sometimes we forget. Is it Thursday, Tuesday? You never know. Okay. I think that is all from me. If stop sharing.
Yes.
Right, Ali, you may have some points to be highlighted. The time is yours.
I have seen some questions. Have you seen it?
Yes.
Actually, one of the question from the downside, it's about the contribution. I mean, the contribution to poor people. So actually, what I believe is it's the question from Gai Shaharja. I am not
Yes.
sure I pronounced correct, but yeah, question about the contribution. So many people, so many people grocers need couldn't eat for his or family. So what I really believe that's the important how the country is printing money or borrowing and contributed to and responded to coronavirus. It should be starting from the zero, not from the hero. What I mean, heroes who is earning more, they don't have like a uh, the lack of any needs. So they have everything. So when we lend money to them, they automatically
Okay.
comes back to the central bank and buy the bonds and invest on it. But once we start contributing to from the people who have less income or who has no income, it is more painful. I hope this time it won't be
All
like
right.
2080. Yeah. And
All
there's
right.
another question, I think, to me about the Turkish foreign reserve on central bank is actually, I can tell the numbers. It's the gross reserve is 52 billion dollar. Net reserve is 16 billion dollar. But unfortunately, after the swap, there are lots of calculations, and everyone, people not sometimes agree the methodology, but it's minus. So the previous condition of corona has really like uh, is really like determining to this period of COVID.
Are, are you proposing the direct disbursement of money to the poor or just lending them?
About central bank's reserves. This is another question. Another question is about Turkey's reserves capacity. So how I ended up, it's depreciated last 2 3 years more than forecasted, and the injection of the credit. Also, this is the reason that behind of the depreciation. But end of it, once you look at it, the net reserves is 16 billion dollar,
Yes.
and actually after the swap,
Okay.
it is minus.
What about the Turkish, I would say the Turkish lira exchange rate today with regard to the US dollar?
It's 7.10, I think.
All right.
But if you just wanted to virtualize it, I can tell you one thing. When I start doing PhD, and the 1 euro, it was equal to actually 3.5 or 4 euros. I mean, 4 euros was equal to 1 euro.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 1 euro is equal to 4 Turkish lira. But now it's almost 8.
All right.
inflationary effects. So it will come back. Maybe some people really think that like Brazil, it happened. The demand shock will not allow to inflation problem.
Yeah, sure.
So, and the central bank hoping for it.
All right, all right. Well, in my view, doing today is it's better to, social safety net. It's better to distribute something that has immediate impact to the poor instead of lending the money. We lend the money. I'm not sure if they use the money for productive allocation or not. Uh, Being the poor are commonly also the less educated in the system. They can repay back. It is good, and it is not. It's another problem. So I think the most suitable affirmative action is to disburse money in terms for the short-term purpose, like to sustain their purchasing power, and that is all for the poor. That also practiced in Brazil, in Peru during the crisis, and we adopt the system. I don't know how many people are belonging to the poor in Turkey, and is your government also channeling disbursement directly to them, such as happening in Indonesia?
There is actually one there's a one important thing I missed it maybe while I am talking. I think 2 million people. Actually, I mentioned that one. 2 million people already got got paid 1,000 Turkish lira every each one. 2 million people. So who have no income, and the one the government really like. Actually, these we can say that like 2 million people, the most fragile people, the government contribute them, but the amount of money, I am not sure is it enough. And this lockdown is already 2 months, and 1,000 Turkish lira means that the half of the basic payments. So once we look at from that side, and the period of the lockdown, and also after this period, after the lockdown, I don't think so the recovery will be rapid. So the government should rethink and contribute more these people, because 1,000 Turkish lira is purchasing power party is not that high.
Hello, Ali, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay, Ali, let's now shift to give attention to our viewers. There are some questions about Turkey. I would like to say to Mr. Andi Wardana, welcome to our discussion. Mr. Wardana asks you to elaborate about the swaps. I heard that Turkey has lots of dependency on the swap markets, lots of foreign currency borrowing and swapping it to lira with the central bank. Maybe you would like to address the question, Ali? Thank you.
I didn't hear the beginning of your talk, so I heard
would like to repeat. Yes. Could you elaborate about the swaps? I heard that Turkey has lots of dependency on the swaps market. It has lots of foreign currency borrowing and swapping it Turkish lira with the central bank. What do you think about that?
Like, as I said, we have long-lasting problem. Saving rate is really low. So what we need to for investment, we need to have foreign investment. And mostly foreign investment comes from Europe and USA. And at the same time, we have a trade deficit, which is mostly caused by commodity prices. Like this is the another outflow. And last two years ago, after 2018, I think, or 2017, because of the political risk, we had less number of tourists.
Okay.
And some political measure, some policies, some economic policies, and 2018 problem, which is currency crisis, is really like a depreciated our lira value, Turkish lira value, at the same time depreciated the central bank reserves. But still one important positive thing, public debt still lower than most developed and emerging market countries. On the other hand, the private sector debt is mostly foreign currencies and mostly actually dollar. So this is problem, and we don't have that capacity to fulfill it.
All right, thank you. So the problem. Yeah.
That's why I really like give importance. Also, like nowadays, government announced that they tried to join the swap line with the Fed. They have already two swap lines agreement with China and Qatar. One of them is $1.7 billion. One of them is $5 billion. But the calculation is changed a lot, is varies a lot. But between 30 to 60 billion dollar for foreign exchange, which is dollar, we need it.
All right, Mr. Nandi Wardana, your question has been addressed by Mr. Recai Ali. Thank you very much. The case is that, well, you said previously the saving rate is low in Turkey and the trade has been experiencing deficit in such a longer period. I think many countries are experiencing deficit today and try to improve that competitiveness in the market. Professor Guy Suharja, thank you very much. How about so many grassroots near couldn't eat for his or her family? I've been explaining that the single cure for the poor is not by lending the money. There are many studies in Latin America that lending the poor the money or just giving an indirect stimulus for them will not reach in a convincing manner, but rather just give them a direct their purchasing power to and access to foods. It has been proved convincingly in Brazil and other Latin America. It has been also be practiced in Indonesia, for example, during the direct cash disbursement to the poor, or the BLT, in last 2004 and last 2009. Professor Suharja also there is one is from Colin Gunn. Thank you very much, Mr. Gunn, Colin Gunn. What kind of financial protection mechanism is available in Indonesia if massive default of loans occur because of COVID-19? I'm not going to address that too early. I'm very reluctant to anticipate that because I don't see the measure appropriate today is addressing the failure in financial institutions such as occurring in the last 1998, but rather today, as I said previously during my presentation, our homework is in Indonesia is to avoid productivity fall, right, from reaching to the banking system, from reaching to the financial. through the probability of default, through the credit crunch, to the increasing non-performing loans. That is the first. I'm not going to say whether or not we should borrow money from the donors, whether or not we should have other foreign debt burden. That is too far. I think what we have talked here is already sufficient to address Mr. Gan's question.
I have one question to you actually, if you wanted to address it. Did already Indonesia already apply for any credit from any international institutions?
Not yet. Not yet. We don't have proof of that. There are some financial support, some affirmative actions from the foreign institutions in terms of monetary support, but it is not clear yet, and it's not definitive if we are coming into any borrowing commitment, let's say from other donors institutions such as IMF or World Bank.
World Bank.
Yes, no. There is also some rumors circulating in the society about the central bank printing money to support the need for liquidity, but that is also have been debunked by our monetary. There is another question for Ali in terms of Turkey's policy. Good night, sir, from Miss Mangunsong, yeah, Randy Mangunsong. Good night, sir. Is there any possibility of the informal sectors and small and medium enterprise collapsing during and after a pandemic, and how to mitigate them, as they have a very big impact in Indonesian economy? I think it is also relevant to Turkey. If you like to address, it is also welcome. I think the government has been anticipating the small and medium enterprise. There are some framework for that. But before that, I would like to give opportunity to Ali. What about well, you know, Ali, this is sharing together. Yeah, Indonesia commonly the share of small and medium enterprise in Indonesian total business, it's beyond 90%. I mean, beyond 90% of Indonesian business are small and medium enterprise. Very prone to daily basis revenue, day-to-day revenue. What I'm saying is the government is currently having some cure such as loan disbursement, direct transfer payment for the credit relaxation of the small and medium enterprise. What about the Turkey? Can you share us about the small business in Turkey and if they are prone to this crisis, the COVID-19 crisis, the coronavirus? What has been done by the authority to save them?
Actually, this is really important. Maybe I missed some parts. Turkish government first response is postpone to some payments, tax or loans, and they postponed 3 to 6 months. And then there is a liquidity channel to exporters and SMEs, but mostly loan, mostly credit. They just easiest the credit channels, and the SMEs and the small business can apply for it, and the credits is like is relatively easier than previous of coronavirus. So I am not sure the amount of money they received, but the business, small business and SMEs already were able to get loan or continue their business and to keep their employment working.
Yes, our government also provided just for the poor people, or also, as well as the small and medium enterprise. We have Padat Karya Tunai, or we have some creation for the small and medium transfer to support them. The President Widodo has been so much famous of his simply cards. He distributed cards to people that give them some supports and financial supports. I know what President Erdogan program has been implemented in addressing poor or small to our country. 90% of total economy, but they are very fragile to crisis. It has been addressed early by the government. Any comments on that?
Actually, like the
small business in Turkey.
It's
many.
Yeah, there are many, and SME is the big percentage of the business actually. So the first like a credit they provide the credits. It's actually is like 20 or 30 billion business credits without any extra things. Maybe sometimes they are paying PPE to make people continue their job. So the employment payment. So sometimes it's unemployment payment. Also, the government provide this kind of contributions. However, the previous condition of COVID is really not allowed to fulfill all the requirements might be. So the contribution of the poor people, is it there? They have done, it has been done. The contribution of the contribution to business, it has been done, but as we don't know the impact of COVID, so we cannot really see these requirements already were fulfilled.
Yeah, my last addition to that to Ms. Simang, excuse me, I forgot the question.
It's about contribution to SMEs and
Ms. Mangun Song's question is that, well, again, what I'm highlighting is subsidy and the tax relaxation from the government is now what our Indonesian authority is currently implementing to avoid the small medium business from collapsing during this crisis. If we recall, in the last 1998 crisis, right, that devastated our banking system, we can if we recall, we can learn from them. There is no crisis in the lower level economies. Those are the crises of people with the currency problem. Who are exposed, whose business are exposed to US dollar, but not the lower income people, as well as the small and medium business. So the credit relaxation, as well as the tax relaxation and subsidy, this is the fiscal approach for them. I'm optimistic that the small and medium enterprise can still be saved in the crisis. Okay. How many more questions you would like to address, Ali? Maybe two more, and we.
You decide.
Okay. Some viewers seem to like you.
Thank you.
They want to know more about.
I hope we organize this event after Ramadan, because it's hard to concentrate on. But yeah, really happy to share, and this is like a good experience. Thank you so much again.
Okay. Ali, maybe two more last questions before we wrap this up. What do you think of? This is also my question for you, for Turkey. What do you think of prediction 2 or 3 years ahead? This is the question from Mr. Irmansyah Ihsanul Kamil from Indonesia. What will happen in the next 2 or 3 years ahead? I've been telling my story about this, but seems like Mr. Kamil would like to know from Turkey. Being Turkish economist, the future, what will happen in Turkey in the next 2 or 3 years in the future?
Actually, what I know is before coronavirus, the expectation is 5% by told by our Minister of Economy. For this year and for next year, they forecasted 5% growth.
Okay.
Yeah.
So much similar with Indonesia, while the rest of the world, the world commonly grow only 2 or 3. Yeah, just like that. But you can grow to 5.
This is the emerging market actually. So the emerging market priorities, one of them is we have still room to grow faster than other countries. So, and also like Turkey as in Indonesia is the big population, but Turkey also big population when you compare with our neighbors. So one of the big in Europe, one of the big in Middle East. So still we have chance, we have I think opportunity to boost our economy. So once we come to the after pandemic, actually this is hard to forecast. Even in normal time, it's hard to forecast. But under these conditions, really, like, it's getting more harder. But what can I say? The government side, the Turkish government forecast is 0.5% growth. There is still hope for recovery and growth. So just a little bit above zero. But once IMF forecasts about Turkish growth rates, I mean, there is no growth, it's -3. So what I guess is, it's not important how many, the number actually here. So we see, and already people know that huge impact, huge negative impact. Only my concentration is, with this period, we shouldn't let inequality will grow. Mm-hmm. We shouldn't let the number of fragile people will increase. So they call it new Keynesian style, the contribution, not just government funding and building things, but this we should really talk about. I mean, emerging market, it's a little bit hard. We have many problems, but we should really start talking about basic income, and this basic income should be reliable basic income. It shouldn't make people the bankrupts, any fraud in the future. So we should keep our people safe and don't let to fraud.
All right. I got your points. Thank you very much. And the last question for us is workers. This is from This is from Madam Susanti. Mrs. Puturani Susanti asking, talking about unemployment. Has the return of migrant workers losing their job has been predicted by the previous government as a corona impact? Okay, do you think there are migrant workers, the Turkish migrant workers coming home from other country to your homeland because they lose their job?
It's really appreciated to hear this kind of people really really aware of these maybe minorities, but it's really crucial, as you might know that, and it's nice to share these things to our Indonesian guests. Yes. Turkey already guesting for more than 3 million, between 3 to 4 million Syrians. So since
Syrians.
Okay, we have African workers, we have some workers from Middle East and some Asian countries, but mostly as a migrant, we have between 3 to 4 million immigrant people. But the good thing is that the contribution of Turkey to immigrants is actually it's actually should be welcomed by any person or any country. So it started from 2011. This flow from Turkey to the human flow from Turkey from Syria to Turkey. So most of them already settled, most of them already working, most of them already business. So it is not like a new migrants. So if it was a new migrants and that much, the huge number of immigrants, it might be a problem. But now, actually, this is they are part of the system. Mm-hmm. So what can we say here? Actually, we don't know the numbers yet. I mean, we don't know yet to see the how people dealing with it. To be honest, so while I was searching, while I was following the news or the government institutions about these unemployment numbers or how the different group of people dealing with this problem, but as the government, as the institution, not just government institutions, also the private institutions, non-governmental institutions, foundations, there is a huge contribution on them. I am not really worried about what will happen to them, but as all countries, we will be affected for sure.
You know how many Turkish being living abroad, Ali? Do you know? Let's say there is a community.
I can tell that up to 1 million in France, 3.5 million in Germany.
Okay.
But the maybe 300,000 people in Belgium.
All right.
Not more than France and Germany. There are also 250,000 or 500,000 of people living in England, Holland, Denmark, Italy. But the density of the population, Turkish population, is mostly in France, and that's why we can eat kebab in nearby campus.
Sure. Yeah.
So and another the mostly in these two countries, France and Germany.
Are they all of Turkish citizenships or just Turkish people of Turkish origin living abroad?
Yes, most of them they moved there like years ago, like after 1950s, 1960s. Even my grandfather, 1970s or 1975, he moved to Germany. So if you meant about the immigrants, Turkish immigrants in foreign countries, they have already settled, so they can get benefit from the countries where they live. So I don't think so it will be extra negative impact on them. And the students, actually, this is really important. Turkey's scholarship amount of scholarship has risen a lot this last 15-20 years, and even who cannot get scholarship, they can apply for student loan. So the amount of student loan is actually acceptable? It gives acceptable opportunity to live there.
All right, Mrs. Susanti, that was the answer from Mr. Recai, Ali. Thank you very much. So it seems like Turkey also experienced the migrant workers coming home losing their job abroad. He said he doesn't know yet what to do with them. For your guest, Ali, how many Indonesian diaspora abroad do you think? How many of them?
Once I met my first Indonesian friend in the UK. Actually, I was really like I wasn't really like I was really a little bit surprised that maybe nothing because of the Europe where we are living. I didn't see lots of Indonesian abroad like Turkey. When you compare our population, it's
Exactly.
not that much density,
All
but
right.
still your population is big. So I don't know.
There are around 7 million Indonesians abroad. So I suppose, yeah, there are seven millions. I suppose Turkish maybe more, maybe
Oh, yeah.
11 million people. Out of that 7 million, around 200 until 300,000 are migrant workers. Migrant workers. So can you imagine if some part of them coming home from other country? Taiwan is the country that harbors our migrant workers the most. The second is Malaysia. So can you imagine if they go home, they bring this COVID-19 and they bring this Corona? That is a disaster. And our government has provided a number of hospitals, such as in Galang Island. This is an island, a very, very isolated island in Indonesia. So that I think isolation is the key for coronavirus prevention. Can you imagine? This is the advantage of Indonesia. Our country has the natural shape of archipelagic fashion. So if you open your map, you find Indonesia, there are many islands, archipelagic nature. Uh, some say,
When I am going to be invited.
oh, sure, you will. We will do conference together there. You can see some beautiful things also.
Hope soon, yeah.
Yes. But can you imagine countries occupying the same land continentally like Europe? Wow, you can imagine the spread of the virus is hard to I can say hard to avoid. Yeah, so we have islands. This is another opportunity, another advantage. Excuse me, for Indonesia to hamper to obstruct the disease to spread over all over the island. And that is why our number of infected cases may not be as high as other countries, but still we try to fight them to combat them. So isolation in Galang Island as by building hospitals for migrant workers infected by the COVID-19, isolate them in the certain island. There is another key to address Mrs. Susanti's question regarding how to cope with migrant worker losing jobs coming home. All right, I think we are at the end of our session. We have answers the question by viewers. They want to know about Turkey. Uh, thank you very much. If you have something before we go to say, Ali, because people seem to like your country also by showing, seeing
We
their question. They want to know more about Turkey.
Yeah, we love Indonesia too, and Turkey has developed a lot, but unfortunately we are passing through the hard time. So let's
Mhm.
hope the time will bring the solutions, and we will work harder
All right.
and contribute more, and everyone trying their own job with a good way. So see you next time. Maybe we will able to present, and we will maybe able to satisfy all the expectations. At the same time, I learned a lot from you. Thanks so much.
Well, what we can learn from the crisis in Indonesia is how to use technology to still keep growing amid this challenging condition. And also, my best prayer for Turkey and President Erdogan. I believe everybody has been doing so much, and the best. They are doing their best to address the issues. And hopefully we can talk again later about today we talk about monetary system and financial markets, how to, let's say, how to avoid the crisis from reaching into the banking system, and whether or not we should apply for financial support from the institution. We have been addressing them. Thank you very much. And let's hope that I think most countries expect the lockdown or the cure to the COVID-19 to be effective by June. Their dimension of thinking, the distance of time duration is until June, and many more are still waiting for the destiny to obtain the best cure for the virus, be it a vaccine, or some people say just let the people go uh, outside and experience the herd immunity. I believe you also heard about that. Maybe you observe observe also. In my observation, the more democratic a country is, the more liberal they are, the more difficult for them to, I would say, how to 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 discipline the people.
So, can you repeat the last sentences again?
Can you see that the more democratic a nation, the more difficult for them to keep discipline of the people.
There is a huge discussion about it. Actually, it's the professor from America. This is Donny Roderick. I think he wrote about something. And
Yes.
yeah, the expectation is from the different side, more democratic and more, the close countries. So for me, when you look at the Denmark, when you look at New Zealand, how they flattened, I mean, without upward line, they just flattened, and they just flattened the number of the coronavirus in infected people and the number of infected people. So they managed once you look at the chart, once you look at the map, it's one of the two countries, and they are democratic countries. And when you check the stimulus package programs, as you see the, to be honest, is the Germany one of the best one, because the saving ratio is high, the government not budget deficit, the previous year is budget surplus. So this is another important thing. Look at the Russia, like they have helped Italy. They sent their trucks and extra things, and they had a image. But end of the day, today it's 10,000 injected, the one of the most in the world, and we don't know what's happening in the country. The lack of transparency. So, but the countries who are then the country is closed. Like look at China. We don't know, but we know something. Whoever wants to talk, they weren't allowed to talk. So the risk is increased because of this. For example, when I look at some countries, okay, when you look at Spain, France, Italy, unfortunately, they couldn't really manage well this crisis. It is terrible. You remember in France, in Paris, the election, weren't postponed. So I don't think so. It's because of democratic. Okay, this is important. The democratic standard is important, but top of it, the management, how they, and also this is also the awareness of the problem. This is our. But in the good thing, we had experienced before the financial crisis, but right now, unfortunately, some leaders. Of them has not really able to manage well this crisis. This is the only I think the problem we will have more than coronavirus problem.
Well, it is interesting that not to mention the Vietnam, that Vietnam and China, the former communist countries, that used to adopt authoritarianism in their system, they tend to cope with the crisis more effectively, with the lower number of infections, as well as the shorter duration to recover. Maybe they are more effective in disciplining the people to be staying at home. I don't know.
Maybe the previous the problem, like it wasn't a regional, can we call that regional pandemic, the previous one? Maybe they had experience, so they were able to deal with this problem quicker and with better way. Look at South Korea, look at Singapore. I mean, yes, we can't say Singapore, but look at South Korea. It is not a totalitarian country, but the number of the infected people and the economic stimulus program and the way that they manage the test numbers, it's actually really important. And in Turkey, for example, after 2002, like especially the health sector has been developed like extraordinarily. Like you can't even imagine the change. When you come to Turkey, you go to hospital for free, and this is like we are not really developed country. Maybe we have some economic problem. I'm talking about this three months period. I'm not giving my opinions about to like a general. This three months, we didn't have any problem to go to hospital. We didn't have any problem to have some equipments. And once we go to hospital, and most of the hospital, especially government hospital, for free. Private hospitals, they might sometimes illegally charge money, but this is not really not people really require accept to go there or require to, or have to go there. So we are not really developed some measurement, some index, but on the health based, because of the Turkey's democratic standard increase, I think it's really helped to develop this kind of infrastructure, health infrastructure, especially the hospitals, and to provide people for freely.
All right. Mr. Nandi Wardana from Indonesia saying we would love to visit Turkey after this pandemic is over. Also, Mr. Irmansyah Isanul Kamil saying Turkey and Indonesia are brothers.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Ali. Ogcem Ali Recai, a Turkish economist working for a number of research institutions and also public interest. We hope to see you later. We love to have your discussion. It was a very insightful and valuable topics that we can know each other from Indonesia and Turkey. Thank you very much, Ali. Have a good day for you.
Thank you so much.
Bon soirée and see you soon. Bye-bye.